basketball Hall of Famer, he played for the Bulls for a couple of years, Golden State Warrior, multi-time All-Star, Nate Thurmond. How you doing, Nate?
Fine. How you guys doing this morning?
Good.
We're talking about fitness here with a fitness model, and she's telling us about how we should eat and everything like that.
I should have heard that.
You don't have to worry about that anymore. Back in the day, you were in pretty good shape.
Yeah, back in the day, but I could use a little advice right now, I think.
Yeah, but you got that restaurant there. It's kind of hard to eat healthy when you're eating Big Nate's, barbecue?
No, I sold the restaurant a year and a half ago. I'm retired.
Oh, you're tired of cooking up the beef and the pork?
I'm tired of cooking. I wasn't cooking anyway, but I'm tired of standing around.
So what do you do nowadays? Just take it easy?
Just take it easy. Unfortunately, I'm not a golfer, but, I spend a lot of time with my wife now, and we do a little bit of traveling and, such. So you can always find things to fill up your time. Watch a lot of NBA, obviously.
Okay. What do you think of today's NBA game?
I love it. A lot of people say that, they give it to one person, the other four guys stand around, but still, the athleticism in the players today is something to behold as far as I'm concerned. I mean, everybody can dribble both hands, pass it off the dribble, things that some of us couldn't do back in the day. So it's still an interesting game to me, and I enjoy it.
I mean, you had a very good high school teammate in Gus Johnson. Did you guys ever lose a game in Akron?
Yes, we did. Unfortunately, we were going into the state tourney, and we got beat by a team that didn't have a player over 6'3", but they pressed us all over the floor. We had a pretty big team, but we couldn't handle the press. So we got beat, but you said pretty good player. No, Gus was better than that. He was a great player. He was unbelievable. Long before his time, he was the LeBron of our day.
Yeah, I was going to say, for those people who did not have the pleasure of watching Gus Johnson, if you had taken Gus Johnson and put him in a time machine and put him into a world that had ESPN and highlights and NBA TV and all this other stuff, they would just wouldn't believe what he was able to do.
Superstar. I mean, this guy could jump out the gym. I remember one of his slogans was, he said, "I tell my legs how high, and they go higher." I mean, he could fly. I mean, handle the ball with both hands. Really, 6'6", 235 pounds of muscle. He was a great player.
Similar to sounds like Maurice Stokes. Jack Twine was telling me that guy could do everything.
Yeah, Maurice was a little bit before my time. Back in Akron. I'm from Akron, Ohio. We couldn't see too many games, NBA games. I used to see an NBA game on Saturday afternoon. I never will forget it. And most of the time, it was the Detroit Pistons with, Felix, Ray Felix was the center back in those days. I mean, I know a lot of people listening saying, who are you talking about?
I remember.
But Ray Felix was 6'11", and I used to watch Detroit all the time. That was my only exposure to the NBA.
Did you tell yourself, I could be as good or better than Ray Felix? I can play in that league?
Well, what was amazing about it, I used to tell my mother all the time, I want to be just like Ray Felix. And Ray Felix was 6'11", and I turned out to be 6'11". My mother used to tell me that all the time.
Did you ever meet Ray Felix?
No, I never met him.
And then you went to play at Bowling Green there. How did you end up at Bowling Green?
Well, I ended up at Bowling Green because my high school coach, Joe Siegfried, great coach, went to Bowling Green. And he always talked about Bowling Green. And then I went to take a visit to Ohio State, and it was just too big for me. I wasn't ready for that. I had to take a bike to class and all that stuff. And so I went to visit at Bowling Green. I just fell in love with the place. It was in the Midwest. I'm from a relatively small town, Akron. Some people think it's a big city, but it's 250,000 people. But small town atmosphere anyway. And, when I went to BG, it's a very small town, probably 15,000 people in the town. And I went up there on a Sunday, and I just fell in love with BG, just the campus and all that. And I came back home and I told my mother I'm going to BG, so that's how it happened.
So in high school, you got to play against Jerry Lucas?
No, Jerry Lucas was down in Columbus. He was in another little small town. I forget the name of the town. So we never did hook up with it. We wanted to because Gus was the better player, and Jerry Lucas was getting all the headlines. We wanted to get down there so Gus could rough him up a little bit, but we never got to play to them because they were like he went to high school maybe 150 miles away or so, maybe a little bit more than that. So there was never any interchange as far as athletics were concerned.
Okay. Was there any thought of going to Ohio State, which probably has more students than Bowling Green has people?
Well, when I took the visit, like I said, I didn't like it. It was too big. I didn't like that. They had a really solid freshman team before me. They had Lucas, Siegfried, Noel, a couple more guys.
John Havlicek. And I said, hey, I'll never play here. And plus the bicycles, I mean, I figured I would never find my way to all my classes. It was spread out too much for me. I didn't like that at all. So BG was a better choice for me.
And then you get drafted by the Philadelphia Warriors and your teammates Wilt Chamberlain. You must have thought to yourself, why me?
No question. You said it right on the head. I'm sitting in the lunchroom. Back in those days, I didn't even know it was draft day. It wasn't a big deal like it is today, going to New York, and everybody knows when draft day is. I'm sitting in the lunchroom. A guy comes in and says, hey, you were drafted by the Philadelphia Warriors. And I looked at him, and I knew, I said, that's got to be wrong because they have Wilt. I went back to the room. I got a call from my coach, and my coach says, hey, Nate, you were drafted by Philadelphia. And I said, is that true? He said, yeah. And I couldn't believe it. I mean, because I knew that Wilt was there, but it turned out to be okay for me because I was able to be an understudy, and I learned a lot in practice playing against the most dominant player of the era and maybe of all time. And it was really a lesson, and plus the fact that I got to play forward to develop my outside shot a little bit. I played 24 minutes a game as a rookie, so it was just the right situation to break in without any pressure and to get involved with the different nuances of the NBA game.
What was it like going up against Wilt in practice?
Well, it was tough. I mean, I was weighing 232 soaking wet, and Wilt was going 285. So it was a rude awakening. This is the NBA. And I think, again, that was the best way to be awakened by a guy like Wilt dunking on your head. So, I had to toughen up pretty quick, because I definitely wanted to make the team. And playing against a guy like that, you had to show a little something as a first-round draft choice. So it was a quick learning curve that I had to go through, but I appreciate it today. And Wilt was a great teammate. He was very friendly towards me and the other players. I mean, he wasn't a superstar that sat in one corner of the locker room and didn't talk. He was very gregarious type of guy. So it was a fun year and a half.
With Wilt, was there any ever talk about you being the power forward, him being the center? You had been the original Twin Towers before Samson Olajuwon with Houston.
Yeah, I did play. Most of my minutes, Wilt didn't ever come out of the game. So most of my minutes were at the power forward slot. And, when I first got there, of course, I wasn't adept to play at the power forward because, I didn't have the outside shot going for me a little bit better than maybe some centers. But I quickly developed that in practice, being able to face up. I never was able to drive from the power forward position, and I certainly didn't play with my back to the basket because Wilt didn't like anybody in the pivot but him. So that was a learning curve that I had to go through. But by the end of the season, the playoffs, we were playing against St. Louis, and eventually we played in the championship series against Boston. And by that time, I'd become a little bit more adept to what I had to do to get on the floor.
Nowadays, the NBA doesn't have much in the way of centers who play with their back to the basket anyway. So,
well, now in today's game has changed. I think that the last, I'm going to say, and maybe I'm missing somebody. Well, Shaq. Shaq was the last dominant center to play with his back to the basket. Hakeem Olajuwon, I believe, in the last 20 years, did it better than anybody with all the moves he had. from the pivot position, and also he could go out to the free throw line and shoot the jumper. Shaq obviously didn't do that, but he didn't have to. He had so much power down in the lane. But it's becoming a lost art. I think that now you tend to lean more heavily on the guys on the floor who can handle the ball and assist and bring everybody into the flow of the game. And I think that started with Bird and Magic and other players have taken on the role. A guy like Durant, for example, who I saw the other night out at Golden State here. The guy is 6'9". You would think he was a 6'3" guard, the way he can handle the rock. So, like I said, the athleticism of the players today, to me, is just a wonder when you look back and see that some of the guys in my era who were great players could only go one way.
Who would guard Russell when you would play the Celtics? Would it be you or Wilt?
Wilt guarded Russell from the center position. I had to mess with Heinsohn, a little bit of Sat Sanders, whoever the big forward was. But I remember Heinsohn a lot, throwing his elbows around, So
he would never do a thing like that, would he?
Oh boy, wouldn't it? That was part of his game.
Yeah,
was to intimidate. Are you kidding me? So yeah. So I used to guard Pettit, and I could handle Pettit pretty good. I'll say that, and I think Pettit would agree with that. It was a spot for me, and then I was able to help Wilt on the boards. My scoring could have been better, no question. It probably, if I had known that I was going to be drafted by the Warriors, I started shooting that jump shot from the outside a little bit earlier than I did, but I had no idea. I thought I was going to be a center from the start.
One thing you probably couldn't have done much better is rebound. You're one of 5 players in NBA history, along with Bill Russell, Wilt Chamberlain, Bob Pettit, and Jerry Lucas, to average 20 rebounds in a season. How did you do that?
Well, rebounding to me is effort. It's effort, and with me, the training from my high school coach, hey, if you're a big man, go get the ball. Offensive boards, defensive boards, that's your job. He taught us, Gus and I, he taught us to play both ends of the floor. You have to rebound, you have to play defense, and he had a unique system. Joe Seifert. He graded his players. We played a strict man-to-man because we had some good defensive ball players, and he graded you by if you scored 15 points and your man scored 22, then you were -7 to the team. If you scored 16 and your man scored 8, then you were +8. And every year, Gus and I were the leading scorers. Gus was the leading scorer anyway. But after Gus left, I was a leading scorer at 15 points a game because my man averaged 9. So, that taught me to play both ends of the floor. And certainly in my NBA career, that was something that I was able to lean on.
What was it like playing with Jerry Lucas?
Well, Jerry was a good teammate, good rebounder, had a good shot, kind of a push shot, but he could certainly get that off, and a great guy to be around after the game. He had a great memory and used to do a lot of card tricks and all that. I saw Jerry a couple years ago. I think now he might be living out in L.A., but nice guy. I mean, once I got over the herd of him getting all the publicity when we were in high school, then we got along fine.
What about Rick Barry?
Great guy. When I say great guy, great teammate. One of the greatest forwards of all time. I mean, people put him down because of his personality on the floor, not off the floor. But I always say that when you're talking about small forwards, the best 3, they all start with B: Bird, Baylor, and Barry. You can talk about anybody else you want. I'll take either one of those 3, and I'll beat you. I mean, he could pass, he could shoot, and he was a coach on the floor. What can I say? When you talk about all-time greats, to me, he's in the top 15. He's got to be one of your small forwards on one of the first 3 teams that you would pick in the history of the NBA. In my mind.
We talked to Sam Jones last year, and he said that he doesn't feel Michael Jordan was the best player of all time. He thinks he was overrated.
Well, there are a lot of old-timers that I've been around that will say the same thing. And I will say this. If it's not Oscar, then it's Michael. And I give the nod. I hope Oscar's not listening. I give the nod to Michael only because in our day you didn't shoot the three-pointer. And I'm sure Oscar could handle that, but he didn't have to do it, and he didn't do it. So I didn't see that. But with Michael, I've seen the whole package, from the three-point line to the foul line to backing somebody down in the pivot. I mean, he did it all, and he played great defense. So I don't know, I don't know what Sam Jones is talking about, and everybody's entitled to their opinion. But what I saw, it's Michael or Oscar, and I give the nod to Michael.
And then one of the most exciting players previous to that, Elgin Baylor, he just stood out because his style of play was so different. He was the guy who would elevate, take the ball to the basket.
Oh yeah, hang and twirl the ball around. Yeah, great, no question. Great player and could rebound. Yeah, he could do it all too. There's no question. And I saw a lot of him because I was in the Western Conference, and of course, L.A. was down there. We used to play them 8 times a year. So I got enough of Elgin and Jerry West going down scoring 60 points between the two of them. Jerry West is now with us with the Golden State Warriors as an executive, and I just ran into him the other night at the game against Oklahoma City. And still a great gentleman, a great ambassador of the league, just a terrific guy. So I see him from time to time at the Warriors games and enjoy kind of reminiscing. But Baylor, as you said, terrific player. I mean, sometimes I had to guard him, and he'd always, do his thing and shoot over me and say, "Too late, Nate." So, yeah, he was terrific.
How did you get the nickname Big Nate?
Well, Big Nate started. Well, actually, my name when I was playing my nickname was Nate the Great, and Big Nate started. When I started the restaurant business 20 years ago, you want to make people think they're getting a lot of food or whatever. And I had a partner at the time, and he said, "Let's call it Big Nate's." So that kind of my second career, people call me Big Nate. But when I was playing the NBA, it was Nate the Great. And that I don't know how that came about, actually.
So you hold out hopes that the Warriors will win a championship one of these years?
Oh, we will. We will. We have new ownership, and they're very positive people, very aggressive. And Jerry is helping out selecting people. We made some bad choices 2 or 3 years and some draft choices, but that will happen. But I think we're going to straighten that out. We have 2 dynamic guards. We have a small forward that Darnell Wright is a good player. We have David Lee. So we have a small foundation. We just need another dominant player, a big guy. And it's easy to go from mid range or bottom of the NBA to the top, as you can see, as you have seen with Oklahoma City. All you need is a couple of good draft choices, and there are a lot of good players coming out this year. So I'm hopeful that if we don't make the playoffs, that we get a player or 2 out of the draft. And with the 2 dynamic guards we have, we're not that far away. I mean, our record doesn't indicate that, but we've been playing some good ball lately, and Mark Jackson has them playing better defense. There's a little bit of, I think, good things over the horizon.
But none of them got a quadruple double like you did.
Well, yeah, no. But David Lee the other night got a triple double, and I thought that was great. Quadruple double, they don't come around every night. But there's only been about 5 or 6 of those, and I happen to be one of them. And I remember that night, and the only thing I said after the game, they didn't know it until 2 days later. I don't know if you know that story, but it wasn't in the paper until 2 days later that had happened. But I remember going home and saying, "Boy, I was busy tonight." That was my word, busy. And it turned out that I was quite busy that night.
And you did it as a Chicago Bull, which is what matters.
Yeah, well, yes, that's right. We're in the Bulls uniform with Benny the Bull running around in that organ. And they still play that organ in the new arena?
They have something similar.
They have piped-in music. They don't have the organ.
Not the old
Okay.
organ.
Okay, that old organ, boy, I tell you, that used to get me jacked up. We could hear that down in the bowels of old Chicago Stadium. And once we climbed those steps, we were ready to go to war. Great memories, Tom Boerwinkle and Chet Walker, and of course the now departed Van Leer and Sloan and Adelman, Bob. I hope I mentioned Bob Love. Great teams and great teammates. Every now and then I talk to Bob Love. I think he's back there in Chicago with you guys now, and great memories with those guys. Although it didn't work out for me, that system wasn't quite. Something that I'd been used to. But anyway, I've developed some friendships that will last forever.
Thank you so much for your time, and we miss you here at the old Chicago Stadium.
Oh, well, thank you very much. I really appreciate it, and best of luck to the Bulls. You have a terrific player in Rose, and I enjoy watching Dang and Joakim Noah. I mean, he gets more out of his talent than anybody I've ever seen. He's a hard worker.
Exactly. You enjoyed the music down there at the stadium, and so did the Rats down there.
Yeah, that's right.
Thank you again.
Okay, my pleasure.
That was Hall of Famer Nate Thurmond.